You stayed the same age.
Did I really? Mm-hmm. You see why he gets ahead. You know what I'm saying? Tony, help yourself, sir.
For giving me this opportunity to spend a couple of moments introducing to you something really, really special and historic. Kenneth asked me if I would give a little bit of background to who I am, our connection, and what we're about to show you tonight. About 22 years ago, I came to faith, a radical conversion experience, and it changed everything about my outlook and my life. And within a year, I found myself in full-time ministry, working for the church where I got saved. And I was door knocking, giving the gospel to every single family in our suburb, which was about 3,500 homes. It tells me otherwise. That was our covenant. We made that agreement. Well, it was about 2.5 years later, and the Holy Ghost said otherwise. And we were sent out to Italy, where my wife is from. I've been married to Emmy now for 22 years. And it's been a lot of fun. Italian wives are incredibly fun. I say that with a big smile. And it was an incredible time for us because I was born again, Spirit-filled, in an evangelical Pentecostal church. Like I said, I came to radical faith, both me and Emiliana, my wife. We had radical conversion experiences. We've been raised in the word of faith. We'd worked for Kenneth and Gloria in South Africa. But the call that we got to Italy was the call from Rome. You see, while we were visiting Italy, our family, on an annual basis, and we would share our faith with our family, it was hard for us because when they would get born again, there was nowhere for them to fellowship because the evangelical churches at that time in Italy were incredibly legalistic, where men and women had to sit separate, and women had to wear veils on their heads. And you couldn't even go to the beach because it was considered nudity. So as Jesus-loving Christians, we didn't want to send our family to those kind of churches. But then sending them back to the Catholic Church, which is so traditional, that was going to kill their faith. So me and my wife prayed in 1992 in my grandmother's bedroom. Nobody knew about this prayer. We said, Lord, if you want us to leave South Africa, we will leave on one condition. That we come to Italy, but it must be through the Catholic Church. Nobody knew about that prayer. 1992. Well, in 2003, 10 years later, 11 years later, I got a call, an email actually, from Rome saying, Tony, we've seen your ministry and we'd like you to share your ministry with the Roman Catholic Charismatic Renewal. Would you be willing to come to Italy? And there was a clause, you must be self-funded. So I thought, no problem. We, as Protestants, we've been praying for the Catholic Church for years. So obviously people are going to back me and send me.
So he's setting
I
the
sent
stage
out my
to
letters
lead.
for partners. I mean, I worked for Kenneth and Gloria for 3 years. I knew about how partners worked. And Kenneth and Gloria were the first and the only.
Okay, so what he's doing, he's setting a stage here to all of these people in the audience are not the normal members of the KCM.
Pentecost,
They
celebrating
are Word of Faith leaders. They're preachers from different Word of Faith ministries. And so he's setting up to lead them into Catholicism. And he's got a video that message from Pope Francis there. And that Kenneth Copeland knows about. They're setting up to lead the people in. This page.
remembering the coming of the Holy Spirit. And Pope Benedict, there was 450,000 of us outside of St. Peter's singing, Come Holy Spirit. All Catholics, except a couple of us who, they call us the ecumenical delegation. I remember the first time I actually put on the long talari. It's a long black cassock. You've seen the priests when they wear the cassocks. I had to wear mine, and I didn't know that you had to wear trousers underneath. So I remember, and they because we were honored guests, they put us in the first row, and the Pope was right next to us, and I crossed my legs, and my leg came out. And all the bishops looked at me, and they said, "He's Anglican, don't worry." Funny. So I was really not trying to work the system. But Benedict, he said to all the charismatic leaders, charismatic Catholics, publicly, he said this in Italian to them. He said, "You charismatics, you are the hope of the church." Stop. That's only the antipasta. He said, and you need to evangelize within before you evangelize outside. And when I saw that, I realized that I'd given my life.
I don't know why the Ninja Turtles
Life to a good cause, because it wasn't just something free.
A way of harmonizing oneself in action. This is the
Political, diplomatic maneuvering of the Catholic Church to try and get us all.
trying to get a better quality one here.
Message, and to become one big thing. They really wanted you to understand the connection between KCM and the Catholic Charismatic Renewal, because the Catholic Charismatic Renewal is the hope of the Church, the Catholic Church. I was at a meeting at St. Peter's, I think it was about a year and a half ago. It was Pentecost, remembering the coming of the Holy Spirit. In South Africa, very much, we connected very quickly, you and I. And Emmy and Gloria, my wife. We had good times, those 3 victory campaigns in '99. And I remember the day before I was ordained a priest, I came to Brighton to visit you and asked for your permission and your blessing to be a priest. 8 years ago, and you prayed for me behind the curtains, behind the stage. Before I was working for the Catholic Church in South America, and the third spiritual father was Mario Jorge Bergoglio. Because you see, my wife, when she saw she could be Catholic and charismatic and evangelical and Pentecostal, and it was absolutely accepted within the Catholic Church, she said that she'd like to reconnect her roots with the Catholic culture.
Reconnect her roots with
So she did.
She could be.
And so I was working in it with the Catholic Church. My wife was a charismatic Catholic. My children were going to Catholic school, so we raised our kids Catholic. Charismatics, Pentecostals, evangelicals.
See what he's doing there.
Jesus was all of those, you know. Jesus is sacramental. He instituted the sacraments. He did the things that was required of him in the synagogue. He believed in sign and symbol. He used it all the time in his parables. But he was also evangelical because he said, you have to be born again. It is written. He was also the contemplative. He was also the charismatic. How much of Jesus do you want? Do you only want one denomination of Jesus? Jump in, get it all.
One denomination of Jesus.
So, Father Mario, he took me aside when he heard about my testimony about having this ecumenical family, and he started a friendship with me. We started studying together,
Talking about Pope
meeting
Francis.
more often,
Mario.
to a point where he became one of my mentors. And it was very surprising to me when he emailed me a week before the election of the Pope last year, and he said, Tony, will you please pray for me because they called me into the conclave. A conclave is when they choose the Pope, because conclave means with a key, conclave. That's what it means, with a key. They literally locked the cardinals into the Sistine Chapel until they've made a decision. Conclave. So I was thinking maybe he had to go there and be one of the cardinals, because he was a cardinal, to pray for the Pope. And I was on the train, and it's protocol, leaving Rome that day, when they announced the Pope. And the Pope was Mario Jorge Bergoglio. My friend, my spiritual father, had become the Pope.
So that was an introduction, if you will. He was slowly introducing them to Pope Francis. He started out by making like, he's just a normal guy, and some of the stuff that we skipped, he's talking about how they met up and how him and his wife moved to Rome and moved to Italy, and how they decided to...
Catholic diocese, we go visit the Catholic bishop, and we ask his bishop to work among his...
But throughout the whole speech, he's just warming people up. The Pope is a normal guy, just like you and me. You know, like he puts his pants on one leg at a time. He didn't say that, but that's what he's insinuating. Like, you know, just the one, like you could trust him. You know, it's like trusting your grandfather or something like that.
Now, you need to be clear, this is not about my story, even though I promised, Kenneth asked me if I just connect the dots so you'd understand. This is important for you. It's important for the partners, because you support the work I do. But this is not about my story. This is about his.
He just gave something away there. That's part of where a lot of the money, the tithes and offerings and the money and the partnership monies that they collect from their partners at KCM Ministries goes towards supporting the inclusion movement. They use it to help him. They use it to put towards his ministry, which is bringing the body of Christ, mixing the body of Christ with religions, and bringing them back, or bringing them to Catholicism. So a lot of the monies that people are supporting, partners of KCM Ministries are sending there, are going towards stuff like that.
Story. His story. Because God is doing something. Now, I walked in after, I'm jumping the gun. Let me just say this. At Christmas time. Because my spiritual father, one of my mentors, had become Pope, I'm mature enough to know that my relationship is going to change now. I mean, he's got a new job description. I didn't expect to have a friendship like I had before. But I felt blessed that I had that time with him. He imparted many things to me. Like all my spiritual
fathers. He's so high, maybe I won't be able to have friends.
I got a phone call just after Christmas when I was relaxing with my son, watching a bit of TV.
Show that, no, he's down to earth.
And I grabbed my mobile phone. I said, yes, Tony Palmer speaking. And he says, hello, this is Pope Francis. I thought it was one of my friends. They were looking at me through the window. And I said, Father Mario? He said, yes. So I ran upstairs to my office where there was no noise. And I said, what are you phoning me for? He said, when are you going to be in Rome next? I said, I'll be in Rome next 2 weeks' time. I have to visit one of my congregations. He said, can you come and see me? Yeah, there's nobody from South Africa who gives up his house to follow some crazy call from the Catholics, ends up getting a phone call at home from the Pope. So I said to him, look, I'll be there on the 13th. He said, no, I'm busy. And I'm not making this up. This is how it was. Emmy was at the door listening to the conversation. And I said, well, I can do the 14th. I can stay one day extra.
For me, there's just too many loopholes in that story. Because first he said it's Christmas in his home, in his house. And he said, he told his friends making a prank phone call looking through the window. Now, who comes to your window to make prank phone calls and look through your window? You know, and then at the same time, he's in his home. Let's say, I guess where they live in, the houses are really close together or something in South Africa. So,
well, he said, let me go get my diary.
And so
I heard the phone go on the table.
We see what's going on with this. He's basically warming the people up to accept his friend, the Pope, who is now the Pope.
Come back. He said, Bishop Tony? He said, yes. He said, 14's good for me, I'm free. He said to me, what time? I said, you're the Pope, and you're asking me what time? He said, yeah, what time suits you? So I thought, well, 10 o'clock, because I can miss the traffic. Rome's bad, the traffic. So I said, 10 o'clock will suit me fine. He said, see you at 10 o'clock. So I said to him,
Now, if I show you the Pope as opposed to me, then I can't believe him. The Pope is telling me, asking me what time. This makes the Pope seem like humble, you see.
Pope Francis, I can't
You can
believe
trust
that you're
humility.
phoning me. I don't know how to react to you. I was just being honest. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're the Pope of the Universal Church. 1.2 billion people. And I'm just an everyday clergyman doing his bit for the kingdom. He said, Tony, we cut covenant. We're brothers. He said, nothing will change that friendship. I was blessed. Because all these stories you've heard about Francis, about picking his friends up in his Popemobile and taking them, and all that, going out to visit people, he hasn't changed his spots. So, I went last Tuesday, went to see him. We had the morning together, just me and him, the whole morning in his apartment. And I asked him, I said, so what's the agenda? Why did you call me? He said, I have no agenda. There's nothing to discuss. That's a father. That's a mentor. So I started to tell him, I said,
Now, the phone call came Christmas. This is somewhere during the summer, in the spring during the summer. So, something's not lining up with the dates.
I can't believe I'm sitting here. I said, you know how much we can do together? Yes. And we made a covenant to work for unity for the church. And I said, listen, next week I'm going to Kenneth Copeland Ministries Ministers Conference. And I told him about you. Told him all your crazy stories. I said, there's going to be thousands of leaders, and these guys have their jets. They've got TV shows. And I said, they've got churches of 10,000, 2,000, 20,000. I said, these are big fishes.
So it is only 2 months later.
So he said, so what do you want to do? I said, well,
That's February.
can you please? I told him about Kenneth and Gloria's partnership with us from day one. And I lost a lot of evangelical friends because they thought I betrayed the faith because I was building a kingdom and not an empire.
There's something wrong with the
Sorry.
dates.
And so
It's not spring.
I said to him, how's about can you give Kenneth a word and give the leaders a word? He said, okay. So I'm waiting for him. And he says, you want to take a message next week to Texas for me? I said, yes, sir. So I said, do you want me to write you for the church? And I said, listen, next week I am going to Kenneth Copeland Ministry. I heard the phone go on the table. I heard the feet come back. He said, Bishop Tony? He said, yes. He said, 14's good for me, I'm free. He said to me, what time? I said, you're the Pope, and you're asking Francis. I thought it was one of my friends. They were looking at me through the window. And I said, Father Mario? He said, yes. So I ran upstairs to my office where there was no noise. And I said, what are you phoning me for? He said, when are you going to be in Rome next? I said, I'll be in Rome next 2 weeks' time. I have to visit one of my congregations. He said, can you come and see me? Yeah, there's nobody from South Africa who gives up his house to follow some crazy call from the Catholics. Father Mario? He said, yes. So I ran upstairs to my office where there was no noise. And I said, what are you phoning me for? He said, when are you going to be in Rome next? I said, I'll be in Rome next 2 weeks' time. I have to visit one of my congregations. He said, can you come and see me? Yeah, there's nobody from South Africa who gives up his house to follow some crazy call from the Catholics, ends up getting a phone call at home from the Pope. So I said to him, look, I'll be there on the 13th. He said, no, I'm busy. And I'm not making this up. This is how it was. Emmy was at the door listening to the conversation. And I said, well, I can do the 14th. I can stay one day extra in Rome. He said, let me go get my diary. I heard the phone go on the table. I heard the feet come back. He said, Bishop Tony? He said, yes. He said, 14th's good for me. I'm free. He said to me, what time? I said, you're the Pope, and you're asking me what time?
So that would be
He said,
January
yeah,
14th.
what time suits you? So I thought, well, 10 o'clock, because I can miss the traffic. Rome's bad, the traffic. So I said, 10 o'clock will suit me fine. He said, see you at 10 o'clock. So I said to him, Pope Francis, I can't believe that you're phoning me. I don't know how to react to you. I was just being honest. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're the Pope of the Universal Church. 1.2 billion people. And I'm just an everyday clergyman doing his bit for the kingdom. He said, Tony, we cut covenant. We're brothers. He said, nothing will change that friendship. I was blessed. Because all these stories you've heard about Francis, about picking his friends up in his Popemobile and taking them and all that, going out to visit people, he hasn't changed his spots. So I went last Tuesday, went to see him. We had the morning together, just me and him, the whole morning in his apartment. And I asked him, I said, so what's the agenda? Why did you call me? He said, I have no agenda. There's nothing to discuss. That's a father. That's a mentor. So I started to tell him, I said, I can't believe I'm sitting here. I said, you know how much we can do together? Yes. And we made a covenant to work for unity for the church. And I said, listen, next week, I'm going to Kenneth Copeland Ministries Ministers Conference. And I told him about you. Told him all your crazy stories. I said, there's going to be thousands of leaders, and these guys have their jets. They've got TV shows. And I said, they've got churches of 10,000, 2,000, 20,000. I said, these are big fishes.
These guys have been working on unity for years.
So he said, so what do you want to do? I said, well, can you please? I told him about Kenneth and Gloria's partnership with us from day one. And I lost a lot of evangelical friends because they thought I'd betrayed the faith because I was building a kingdom and not an empire. Sorry. And so I said to him, how's about can you give Kenneth a word and give the leaders a word? He said, okay. So I'm waiting for him. And he says, you want to take a message next week to Texas for me? I said, yes, sir. So I said, do you want me to write it down? He said, why don't we make a video? Now, I had in the back of my mind, I had my iPhone, right? I always have my iPhone. I had in the back of my mind to ask him, but I didn't want to be cheeky and break the friendship. I don't want to abuse a friendship. Friendships are sacred. They are gifts from God. You can't use friendship. Let God use your friendship, but you don't use it. And so I was waiting to see if there was like a Holy Spirit opportunity to ask him. But he was the one who asked. He asked, can I make a video? And so we've had it edited. We've had it subtitled because he speaks in Italian. He doesn't speak English. He tries in the beginning, but then he switches to Italian straight away. So tonight, the Pope. It's a historic moment because I've served 3 popes because I started working with them when John Paul was still alive, and then the Pope Benedict, and now Pope Francis. And Pope Francis, St. Francis of Assisi, he was an open charismatic. This is the first Pope in history that's took the Francis's name because he's openly charismatic. And this is history that we've got a Pope who recognizes us as brothers and sisters, speaks to us as brothers and sisters, and has sent a message to us. And you'll see what the message is about. And I need you to at least understand a little bit of the history behind this, because we are living in an incredibly important generation. I believe that God has brought me here to this year's Ministers' Conference in the spirit of Elijah. Let me explain.
It's like John the Baptist.
If you look carefully, the spirit of Elijah was on John the Baptist to turn the hearts of the sons to the fathers, and to turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons, to prepare the way for the Lord. And we know that prophecy always has a double fulfillment. And we know that Elijah will come before the second coming as well. And I've understood that the script.
So if he's calling himself Elijah, and Elijah, he's saying Elijah will come before the second coming. And Elijah, John the Baptist, in the spirit of Elijah, is preparing the way of the Lord Jesus Christ. In a sense, he's saying that he's Elijah preparing the way of the Pope. See what he's saying there? And this is why when he went on that Christian talk show radio, and they said, well, what's the Pope like? Well, he's like Christ in the flesh. He's like Jesus in the flesh. That's what he said. So he's calling the Pope Jesus in the flesh, and he's saying that of himself, that he is like Elijah, or John the Baptist, or Elijah.
The spirit of Elijah is the spirit of reconciliation, to return hearts to each other. This is very important. We know that the first 1,000 years there was one church, it was called the Catholic Church, and the word Catholic means universal, it doesn't mean Roman. Catholic means, if you're born again, raise your hand if you're born again. You're a Catholic. Take back, redeem what belongs to you. We are Catholics. And then there was the split at the end of the first millennium. We had the Orthodox, East and West, 2 churches. Then 500 years later, we have Luther in his protest. 3 churches in 1500 years. 3 denominations, not 3 churches. And then, from Luther's protest onwards, 33,000 new denominations.
Differentiate between.
I've come to understand that diversity is divine.
Religions.
It's division that's diabolic.
Define between religions and denominations of certain religions. So again, Baptist, Pentecostal, but different religions, there's just different religions. I'm just trying to bring the religions together. It's calling them all denominations, and that's a fact as well too.
It's true what you were saying about the glory. I agree with you, of course it's true. The glory that the Father had, he gave to Jesus. The glory was the presence of God. What is the charismatic renewal? It's when we experience the presence of God. And he said, and I give them the glory, pragmatic reason, so that they may be one. It's the glory that glues us together, not the doctrines. It's the glory. If you accept that Christ is living in me, and the presence of God is in me, and the presence of God is in you, that's all we need. Because God will sort out all our doctrines when we get upstairs. Therefore, Christian unity is the basis of our credibility. Because Jesus said, until they're one, they will not believe. The world will not believe, as they should, until we are one. Division destroys our credibility. It is fear that keeps us separated, because fear is false evidence appearing real. It's an acronym. FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Because most of your fear is based on propaganda. Now, why is it historic? Because in 1999, the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Lutheran Church signed an agreement that brought an end to the protest. Luther believed that we were saved by grace through faith alone. Amen. But that's not it. The Catholic Church believed that we were saved by works. And that was the protest. In 1999, they wrote this to...
That wasn't the only protest. You see, Luther had 94, I think it was, 95 theses, but I think he had 94 other things. He definitely had 94 other things that he was protesting against the Roman Catholic Church, other than just that one.
Together. Because in the Protestant church, there were a lot of cheap salvations. People were getting born again, but no fruit whatsoever. And because we didn't even look for fruit, it wasn't the issue. because it wasn't necessary for salvation. And no, it's not. But it's a good judge if you are saved.